My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from a cold, sharp clarity. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe. I just opened my family group chat. I attached the PDF with the red banner and typed, "What is this? This is a foreclosure notice." I watched the read receipts pop up. Mom. Dad. Chloe. Silence. 3 minutes later. A reply from Chloe. It wasn't even words first. It was a photo. Her. Sitting by an infinity pool. Drink in hand. Sunglasses on. The caption read, "Finally finding my center in Bali." Then her text came through. "Oh good. You got it." Mom was stressed. "Can you just handle that? I'm in the middle of a mindfulness retreat." Handle it. 2 words. 2 words that summed up my entire 31 years. I wasn't their daughter or their sister. I was the one who handles it. I was the fixer. The support beam. The person who cleans up the mess. I stared at her message. The casual audacity of it. The complete, stunning lack of awareness. My instinct, the one trained into me since I was a child, was to reply, "Okay, let me make some calls." To smooth it over. To absorb the panic. To handle it. But something in me finally snapped. It wasn't loud. It was a quiet, clean break. I typed 4 words back. "No. I won't." My fingers were steady as I hit send. Then I minimized the chat. I opened a different folder in my email. One I hadn't looked at in weeks. The one labeled Stockholm. Inside was an employment contract from a Swedish design firm. A dream job. An offer I'd been holding. Too guilty to sign because... Who would take care of the house? Who would help Chloe? What would Mom do? I clicked open. I scrolled to the last page. I signed my name. I pressed accept. It was done. You see, you have to understand. My family doesn't just live in Charleston. They live in an idea of Charleston. An idea of legacy. Of old world respect. All symbolized by that beautiful, historic, 4-bedroom house on a street lined with gas lamps. A house they hadn't been able to afford for at least a decade. That house was a perfect metaphor for my family. A beautiful, impressive facade. Rotting from the inside. And I was the one they called to patch the drywall. To hide the termite damage. To keep the paint fresh. I wasn't a person. I was the family anchor. The one heavy thing, holding the rotting ship in place, while everyone else got to be the sails. Floating off on their wellness retreats and branding ventures. But an anchor can't just hold a ship. It gets dragged down with it. And I was finally letting go of the chain. That foreclosure notice wasn't a new debt. It was a ticking time bomb I had naively helped them build. I remember the night. 5 years ago. My mother, Sharon, sat me down in the kitchen of that beautiful, rotting house. She was the facade manager. A master at making desperation look like elegance. She held my hand. Her voice soft. "Honey, it's just a formality. Your father and I are just consolidating our debts. The bank just needs a little more security. It's just paper." I was 26. I was still desperate for their approval. So I signed. I didn't realize that consolidating debt was a lie. I didn't realize the money was already spent. 2 weeks later, I saw the first charge. $12,000. I asked Mom about it. "Oh, that," she said, waving her hand. "It's for Chloe. A branding certification. It's vital for her new business." Chloe's new business. My sister, the wellness influencer, who believed work was posting photos of sunsets and sponsored smoothies. Then came the $900 a month car lease for a luxury SUV. She has to have the right image. "Olivia," Mom explained, as if I were a child. "You're an architect. You understand aesthetics?" I did understand. I understood I was funding an illusion. I was paying for the gas lamps. The fresh coat of paint. and Chloe's aesthetic. All while my own savings flatlined. My boyfriend, Leo, saw it. He's a history professor. He see patterns. I'd be venting to him. Frustrated. And he'd just listen patiently. One night, he said it. Liv, you're not their daughter. You're their parentified child. I'd never heard the term. He explained it. It's a psychological trap. It's when the child is forced to become the emotional and financial caretaker for the entire family. You're not raised, you're utilized. He said. Your stability isn't a personality trait. It's a trained response to their dysfunction. They don't love you for who you are. They love you for what you do. His words were sharp. And I hated them. Because they were true. My entire life. My value was tied to my utility. I wasn't just paying their bills. I was paying for permission to be in the family. And now, with this foreclosure, the bill had finally come due. My phone detonated. It wasn't a slow trickle. It was an immediate, violent explosion of notifications. My no had acted like a grenade, tossed into their private echo chamber. The first text was from my mother, Sharon. It came exactly 30 seconds after I sent my reply. Not, what's wrong, not, are you okay? Just pure, cold command. Olivia, call me immediately. You have embarrassed me. Embarrassed her. Not, we are in trouble. But you have embarrassed me? The facade manager was angry. I'd let the mask slip. I stared at the message. I didn't reply. A minute later. A text from my father. Richard. My father. The silent beneficiary. Who never spoke up during the dinners. Never questioned the spending. But was always the first to enjoy the comfort I paid for. His text was shorter. You're stressing your mother. Fix this. Again. Fix this. The same 2 words Chloe used. It was their family motto. I muted the group chat. The silence notifications started stacking up at the top of my screen. 1, 3, 7, 12. Then, a new message from a different app. A DM. It was from Tyler, Chloe's boyfriend. A brand strategist who, as far as I could tell, he was a 30-year-old man who lived off my sister. Who in turn lived off me. I opened it. Not a good look. Liv. It started. My name. Liv. Like we were friends. Chloe's brand is built on family legacy. This foreclosure news is toxic for her followers. You really need to think about someone other than yourself. I almost laughed. It was perfect. A complete stranger, whose entire life was subsidized by my labor, was telling me to stop being selfish. The audacity was breathtaking. I blocked him. I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My hand perfectly steady. The anger I felt wasn't hot. It was cold. It was clarifying. My phone buzzed on the counter. A new voicemail. This time from an unknown number. But I recognized it from holiday emails. My Aunt Diane. My mother's sister. The guilt tripper. I pressed play. Her voice was syrupy. Laced with fake pity. Olivia. Honey. It's your Aunt Diane. I just heard the terrible news. Your mother is just beside herself. A pause for effect. I just want to remind you, sweetheart, that family is all we have. Family is forever. You can't let that beautiful home go. Think about your poor mother. Think about what you're doing to her. I deleted the voicemail halfway through. I looked at my phone. 15 missed calls. 28 unread texts. And in that entire barrage of panic and rage, not one single person had sent a message that said, "Are you okay?" They weren't panicking because they were worried about me. They were panicking because the anchor had just unclipped itself from the ship. And they were finally, after all these years, starting to sink. I let the phone go silent. I didn't block them. I wanted them to see that their noise had no effect. I sat back, staring at my laptop. The signed Stockholm contract glowed on the screen. I realized this wasn't a family dispute. Not anymore. This was a financial prison. My mother, my father, my sister. They weren't family. Not in the way that mattered. They were co-conspirators in a long con. And I was the mark. That $250,000 mortgage wasn't just a number. It was a chain. And they had just used it to try and yank me back to shore. The time for emotional reactions was over. The time for texts was over. I picked up my phone and called my old friend from college. Julia. She was now one of the sharpest property lawyers in Charleston. She picked up on the second ring. Liv, this is a surprise. Everything okay? My voice was calm. Cold. Even. It didn't waver. Hey. Julia. I have a professional question. I'm not calling as a friend right now. I'm calling as a client. The line was quiet for a second. Okay. She said. Her own voice, shifting. Becoming all business. I'm listening. 5 years ago, I said. I co-signed a second mortgage on my family's home. It's now in default. I received the final foreclosure notice this morning. Liv. Oh no. I cut her off. Politely. I'm not trying to save the house. Julia. I'm trying to save myself. They've made it clear they have no intention of paying. And they expect me to handle it. I am on that loan for $250,000. What are my options? She was quiet as she processed it. A co-signed second mortgage. Okay. Legally. You are just as responsible for that debt as they are. The bank doesn't care who pays it. They just want their money. You're chained to it. Liv. Unless it's refinanced or sold. They can't refinance. I said. Their credit is non-existent. That's why they used mine. Then. Julia said slowly. The only other option is a sale. I stared at the wall of my apartment. At the framed architectural drawings I'd done. My work. The things I had built. Can I force a sale? Yes. She said. It's called a partition suit. As a co-borrower on the deed, you have the right to petition the court to force the sale of the asset to satisfy the debt. It's the nuclear option. Olivia. It will liquidate the house at auction. The nuclear option. I thought about the barrage of texts on my phone. The entitlement. The insults. The absolute lack of care. They had been setting off bombs in my life for years. It was my turn. Do it. I said. Olivia. Are you sure? This is your family? They stopped being my family when they made me their bank. I replied. Send them a formal notice. Give them 30 days. They can either refinance the entire $250,000 in their own names, or you file the suit. I want my name off this. No matter what it takes. Julia paused. Okay. Liv. I'll draft the letter. It's done. I hung up. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sad. I just felt free. The anchor wasn't just unclipped. I had just hired someone to professionally dismantle it. Piece by piece. The noise from my phone had stopped. I knew, instinctively, that a new kind of war was about to begin. I was ready for it. The legal notice did exactly what it was designed to do. It set a fire. 2 nights later, my phone rang. A video call? From my mother. I looked at the screen. Family conference. The group name read. I almost didn't answer. But I knew this was the end. I had to see it through. I was sitting on the floor of my living room, surrounded by packing boxes. My flight to Stockholm was in 3 days. I hit accept. Their faces filled the screen. All 3 of them. Crowded around their kitchen table, in that beautiful, rotting house. My mother, Sharon, was center screen. Her face tight with a rage she was trying to mask as concern. My father, Richard, stood behind her, arms crossed. The silent enforcer, and my sister, Chloe, was there, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, her mascara already perfectly smudged. The entitled influencer was ready for her close-up. "Olivia," my mother started, her voice dangerously soft. "How could you?" I didn't say anything. I just waited. "A la vier." "Olivia, you sent a lawyer to your own family. You are threatening to sell our home." "I'm threatening to get my name off a debt you won't pay," I said, my voice as calm as the air in my empty apartment. Chloe burst into a sob. "This is your fault," she shrieked, pointing at the camera. "You're stressing Mom out. You're tearing this family apart over money. This isn't about money, Chloe," I said. "This is about my entire future. The $250,000 you all spent." My father finally moved. He leaned into the frame, pushing my mother aside slightly. His face was calm, rational, and that's what made it so terrifying. "Olivia," he said, in that reasonable dad voice that used to make me stand at attention, "we have a solution." I waited. "This is all just a big misunderstanding. You're an architect. You're successful. You have this big new job in Europe. So this is simple. You just go to your bank as a professional, and you take out a $250,000 personal loan. You use that to pay off this mortgage. It's clean. It's simple. You can have it paid off in 10 or 15 years. I just stared. The silence on the call was absolute. I looked at their faces. My mother, nodding, as if this was a brilliant, obvious plan. My sister, sniffing, already looking relieved. My father, looking at me, expectant. They weren't just asking me to handle it. They weren't asking me to help. They were asking me to set myself on fire to keep them warm. They were asking me to trade my entire life for their comfort. To take on a $250,000 debt for a house I would never live in. To pay for a lifestyle I had never enjoyed. And in that moment, all the anger vanished. All the resentment. All of it was replaced by a kind of cold, Arctic clarity. I wasn't their daughter. I was their exit plan. I was their human shield against consequences. "No," I said. It was so quiet. I wasn't sure if they'd heard me. "What?" my mother snapped. "No," I said again. Louder. "I will not be doing that." The call exploded. My mother started screaming. "You ungrateful. After everything we did for you, we raised you. You didn't raise me," I said, standing up. "You used me. I am not your financial plan. I am not your anchor anymore. The house will be sold." "You will destroy this family," Chloe cried. The family was already destroyed. I said, "I'm just the one who finally stopped pretending." I ended the call. I dropped the phone onto a box labeled kitchen. The silence in the apartment was deafening. And for just 1 second, the guilt was so strong, I thought I was going to be sick. It washed over me. A lifetime of training. You are selfish. You are cruel. You are a bad daughter. It was a reflex. As automatic as breathing. But then, I did breathe. I took a deep, shuddering breath, and the guilt receded. I looked around at the boxes, at the ticket to Stockholm on my desk. I realized cutting a toxic tie isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of survival. You're not cutting them off. You're just, finally, pulling your own hand back from the fire. 6 months later, I'm standing in my apartment in Stockholm. It's minimalist. All white walls. Clean lines. And it's quiet. Outside my window, a light snow is falling, dusting the cobblestones and the silent, frozen canal. It is the complete, profound opposite of the decaying, humid grandeur of Charleston. The house was sold at auction. The partition suit was final. The debt was paid to the bank. My name is clear. I am For the first time in my adult life. Financially tied to no one but myself. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Not a text. An email. It was from Leo. The subject line just said, "For your information. This is impressive." I opened it. It was a forwarded email. An email sent not to me, but to him. From my mother. Sharon. I read it. Leo. It started. "I know you care about Olivia. I know you just want what's best for her. She's just confused. She's made a terrible mistake. And her family misses her. I have managed to secure $10,000. From a personal advance. For you. $10,000. If you can just convince her to come to her senses, please. Just get her to call us." I read the words over and over. $10,000. The bribe. The final. Desperate. Pathetic attempt. After the legal battle. After losing the house. Her last move wasn't an apology. It was to try and buy my boyfriend. To bribe him into becoming her agent. Her flying monkey. I looked at the note Leo had added at the top before forwarding it to me. It was just one line. "This," he wrote, "is why we build our own life. See you tonight. I love you." I stared at my mother's words. The manipulation, the come to her senses, the $10,000, and I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even pity. Just quiet. It was like reading a news story about a stranger. A storm happening very, very far away. I deleted the email. I looked back out the window at the snow. I thought about that beautiful, rotting house. I thought about the weight of it. The weight I'd carried for so long. I'd mistaken it for my own bones. I'd spent my entire life as the family anchor. The heavy, unmoving thing, holding the entire rotting ship in place. But looking out at the clean, white world in front of me, I realized I was finally done being the anchor. It was my time to be the sail. And if you're out there, and you've ever felt like this is for you. This is for the one who always felt on the outside of their own family. The one who was only invited as long as you were useful. The one who confused being needed with being loved. I need you to know belonging is not a job. It is not a price you pay. Or a debt you owe. It is not a performance. Real belonging is the quiet, profound, unshakable peace of finally